So we have Dan and Dan here. If you guys want to introduce yourselves, Dan and...
I'm Dan.
I'm Dan. I'm Henline.
Right.
I'm
Dan
Gonar.
Henline and Dan Gardner. Dan and Dan have been working together for a long time. How long would you guys say you've known each other?
Well, I got involved by putting in a furnace for Michael and Connie.
What year was that?
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
long time ago.
Okay.
Wayne was still alive.
Okay.
He was the connection.
And what about you, Dan?
I came along several years later and just happened to be brought down here by Terry, and then we started coming to festivals, and then I got sucked into the showers.
When did you get involved with Lothlorien? What year was that?
Oh God.
You're asking questions about ancient history.
Yes.
That's what we want to know.
That's the point.
It was a few years after Dan got down
So
here.
now it's
I
up to you,
would-
Dan.
I've been here at least 20,
Oh yeah.
maybe more. I don't know. We could
When
look
did you start working on the showers with Dan?
almost immediately.
Almost immediately.
Yeah.
So you guys have been kind of hand in hand working on it for the entire time that it's been existing.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I first got involved, the boiler had just been built, and there was a single water heater tank. And I would fire up the boiler and get a whole bunch of hot water, and a bunch of people would come in and take a shower. And then there would be nobody taking a shower for a while, and the water got too hot and started blowing off steam. And I said, well, we need more storage.
There it is.
Alright, so run us through what you do when you start the fire in here.
Well, have a grating in there, build a fire, sticks and paper, and get it going. Get bigger wood in there. And then when you got a good enough fire, you can close it down. This, you got a brick. Hold the open for the fire to go in there. Very primitive, it works well. That door is off the fireplace furnace that heated my parents' house. They tore that out and put in something better. I grabbed the door and brought it down here and put it on this side. And did you want to look in?
Mm-hmm.
How often do you clean out the ash from the inside? Daily?
Yeah. Well, when you got a festival going, you start out with an empty and wait till, because it's going to be hot. You
Right.
don't want to take it out and dump it and get something on fire. That's, if water comes in here, goes around that side, because there's been too much trouble having plumbing over here. This is the water going in. This is a bottom drain. Usually right before you light it off, you open that up, make sure it's clear. Any rust or anything goes down in there. One of those is top-off valve coming off the top. The other one is a hot water going to the system. And we got the storage tanks. We can run 1 tank, 3 tanks, or 6 tanks. Adjusting the valves. A lot of times when there's just enough people down here, just have number one tank, and you just got about 600 gallons of hot water when you get it all hot with just 1 tank.
What kind of parts are the most common replaced parts?
The thermometers are the most common replaced parts
Okay.
because they got to take them off every fall, put them away somewhere where they won't freeze. Bone Daddy usually takes care of that. And then it comes out from up there, here, here. Then we have this control valve here that makes sure nothing goes past here that's hot enough to burn you. Cold water goes in there and set. It does a fine job. There's when we watch the thermometer at that line. We don't want it to go any higher. So it's something that got to keep an eye on. And then to the showers. The cold water going to the showers goes this way or back down into the boiler. So it goes from the over there, around over here, up here, down to there with the arrows, into the boiler. Comes out at the top, goes in the tanks. Comes out of the tanks, goes through here, into the showers. Pretty simple. Do you want to see the tanks? When I say tanks, they're hot water heaters.
So this is a giant hot water heater.
No,
built
that
into
is
here.
a brand new tank. Was donated to us by a place that builds them in Bedford.
Okay.
Took me a while to talk them into donating one, but it got done. That's the 3rd tank we've had on it. The other 2 were half to a 3rd that size. So now
So
we
you
got
just upgraded in size when you replaced the tank. There was nothing wrong with the tank itself.
no, nothing
Okay.
wrong.
How long do the water heaters usually last?
Don't know how old they are when they get here. They're donated, but since we've had this rig, we've had to replace 2 tanks that were really small and got clogged up, probably with stuff from the house they came out of. That didn't know it until we got them hooked up in here. Now these are all good tanks. No extra sediment in any of them. They've all been flushed.
So if there is an issue with hot water in the shower house, what's the first thing that you would check besides the fire to ensure that everything is working correctly?
You follow the line, make sure all the valves are open. You can have it with 1 tank, 3 tanks, or all 6 tanks, depending on how much hot water you're going to need.
How do you change how many tanks are being used?
There's valves on top.
Okay.
You open and close valves to line it up. And unfortunately, we have people who don't realize what they got to do, and there's the drain valve on them is hooked into a system that pumps it back in so we can keep the water hot, always circulating.
Where are those located?
Pardon?
To get it to go back in.
Right over here, there's a little pump, a little blue thing. It's got all, well, 3 lines going into it for 1 tank, 3 tanks, or
Okay.
6 tanks.
Groovy.
And that's the place where people screw up the most. Usually people who don't supposed to be messing with it anyway.
How long does the water usually stay hot after festivals?
How long?
How long does it usually stay hot after the fire is put out inside?
Well, we let the fire go out. We don't put
Right.
it out, because putting anything in there to cool it off enough to put the fire out will cause a tank to warp. So we can't do that. But once everything's hot, quit feeding it wood. It's had hot water enough for showers for 2 days afterwards.
Okay.
If you just, the guys just cleaning up after a festival and stuff.
There was once the noise coming out of here, and I was like, what the heck is that? Is that some kind of pressure?
Well, when it first starts up and everything's cold,
Right.
you have ticking. When the metal gets hot and expands a little bit, and it makes a little tick noise.
Aside from the fire and it being really hot, is there any dangerous points to this system?
How dangerous is it?
Yeah, is there any kind of dangerous points to the system as far as like...
Well, it's a hot water,
Right.
so every inch of it is dangerous. You got to be careful, make sure no leaks, because what you see, a little drop of water coming out, when it's hot, it's going to be steam coming out. So you don't want that. So you got to keep an eye on it.
How often do you change or clean the pipe system that goes from the fire to let the smoke out?
We've never had to clean that. It
Okay.
gets hot enough, it burns it out and carries on, just like a house. You don't clean out a house fireplace only but every few dozen years.
So potentially, it could, like, because I know when we were growing up, we had a wood stove, and my dad would take the chimney sweep thing and brush out the pipes.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you think, if ever, do you do
No,
that?
we don't need to do that.
Don't have to?
No.
Okay.
Because the stack is pretty much straight up. And when it cools down and then you heat it back up, the metal expands, it knocks off, and all the soot falls to the bottom.
Gotcha. Is there anything you want to add?
I'd like to add that we have a boiler operator's manual, which I wrote 20 years ago or thereabouts, and people who want to become boiler operators need to read this manual front to back. It's only a few pages, but it discusses all of the procedures and how to avoid the worst case scenario, which is what's called a BLEVE, boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. This is a high pressure tank, and with enough hot fire and close off the wrong valves, it could build up pressure and rupture, which would be catastrophic. So we try to avoid that. And the way to avoid that is proper training. We've got an apprenticeship program where people that want to become boiler operators read the book and then tend the boiler under supervision for about 8 hours, and then we have a final exam. And the final exam consists of one question: do you know what you're doing? If If you can answer honestly yes, then you become a boiler operator. And other than that, it's mostly just a matter of being a woodchuck. You pick up the wood and you chuck it in the boiler and make hot water. People use hot water in the showers. It's a matter of trying to balance the rate at which we fire the boiler against the rate at which people are taking showers. And there's always seems to be one period when lots of people want to take a shower all at once, and there's a line out past the long haul sometimes. But it generally works out. Sometimes folks have to take a lukewarm shower instead of a hot shower.
Not me, Batman. It's always been nice and hot for me.
You've done
and I
that?
appreciate that so much.
When that board and the associated plumbing was done, there was a fire in one tank. There was also a solar system that did something. It was gone when I got here. Or it was in a pile out back.
Yeah.
And all of
Vaguely
those
remember
things were, it was a hydraulic computer. You had choice of opening valves this way and that way, depending on whether you wanted to draw water from the storage or directly from the solar or directly from the boiler. It was way more complicated than it needed to be.
But it helped keep the people from messing with it who didn't know anything about it.
Right.
And we still have people that will come down and, well, all they want is a quick hot shower, and they screw up all the valves.
Yeah.
So now we lock them. But it's still, some people,
It's not so easy as just turning on a faucet. They don't know.
yeah.
All right, so it's on you, Dan. Can you tell us what your name is and a little bit about yourself?
My name is Dan. Go by the name Gonar. Been coming out here for a long time. Grew up in Lafayette, West Lafayette, Indiana. Moved down to Bloomington about 50 years ago, so I could be a farmer. Ended up doing a lot of different jobs in the meantime. Was a motorcycle mechanic for a while, and then I went back to school and at Purdue, and ended up doing agricultural research for the U.S. Department of Agriculture for a while. And then I got into heating and air conditioning, so done a lot of different things.
Very cool. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about the Hell's Tuner Motorcycle Club?
Oh, well, that was a group of friends all living in a house in West Lafayette back in 1967. We had a tree house out back, and we had a party one night that got a little loud, and the police came, and in the newspaper the next day it said that the party was an X-type party because there were offbeat goings on. But several of us had motorcycles, and on the 4th of July weekend that summer we decided we were going to go camping and drinking beer and stuff, so we all hopped on our bikes and went down to a place near Attica called Portland Arch. It's now, at the time it was an abandoned Boy Scout camp and has since been bought up by the Nature Conservancy. But has some real nice 150-foot cliffs and stream running through there. It's really beautiful spot. And that was the first run of the Hell's Tunas Motorcycle Club. We couldn't really figure, we're trying to figure out what to name ourselves, and one of the people suggested Hell's Bells, but we settled on Hell's Tunas.
Yeah.
There's another whole story involved with the word tuna. It was actually came about during a pool game, and just an absurd situation. The fellow by the name of Mad Murray the Toad had a straight in shot. The ball was perched on the lip of the pocket. The cue ball was 8 inches away, straight in, easy shot. And Murray goes, pudge shot. And he jams the butt end of his cue down and hit the ball. The ball totally missed. Hit a rail, went over, hit another rail, went all the way to the other end of the table, hit another rail, came down, hit another rail, and nudged the ball into the pocket.
I hear you guys have your own currency.
Well, at that time, pool hall parlance was you call somebody a fish because they're a sucker or something. So Carl screamed at Murray, "You fish!" And they got into a shouting match. Then it was, "You tuna," and it just sort of stuck.
I love that. Can you tell me a little bit about the currency you guys have?
Oh, the whole thing is a large joke, primarily. But it's also a kind of a disorganization of friends. We get together and have parties once in a while, and for several years we had an annual motorcycle run. We called it a roar.
The tuna roar.
Tuna roar. And at the 50th, which happened 6 years ago, we had about 250 people show up.
Nice.
And it's kind of spread all over the country.
I went to the one here.
Well, we had the 55th here
Right.
at Lothlorien.
Spam carving competition.
Oh, that's a tradition.
Making tuna rans.
We have a
Which is the
spam
currency.
carving contest. We also make coins called tuna rans. They're actually in the denomination of 37 tuna rans. And we even built a special machine to stamp them out,
It's behind the long haul.
which lives here at the moment.
How do you become a tuna?
You gotta first meet someone who's already a tuna, at which time you automatically become a tuna whether you want to or not.
Very nice. Okay. I'm going to ask you another couple questions here that have been submitted by Aaron. One of them is, do you have any predictions of what Lothlorien might look like after another 40 years? By the way, that year would be 2063.
I'm not going to be around, and I have no idea where it might go. It's all up to the people involved.
Okay.
And, you know, we got a pretty good track record so far, and, you know, it can only get better.
What are some words of wisdom that you could offer to a future generation of stewards?
Don't take any wooden nickels.
What's a wooden nickel?
What's a wooden nickel?
Yeah, just explain on it a little bit.
Oh, you've never seen a wooden nickel?
You gotta remember this is for future
100
generations.
years ago, people made nickel, they made a little disc of wood and put 5 cents on it, and tried to pass it off as real currency.
So don't take any fake currency.
So don't take any wooden nickels.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you think our generation is different from yours? Do we think we are the same?
Well, for a start, you guys are a lot younger.
But do you think you were like us? Is there a generation difference at all?
Absolutely, but people are people. We're all pretty much the same, got the same desires, the same hopes for the future, that sort of thing.
What was your desire and love for being here? What did you like the most about being here that kept you here for so long?
The people. It's a good group of people, and a whole lot better than all of the other people I met who aren't here.
What makes them better?
A lot of different things. There's a real sense of community and shared love of the land and stuff like that.
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
You want to just introduce yourself for us?
Sure. Where do you want me to start?
Just who you are and maybe where you're from.
From Bloomington. Grew up on Night Ridge. And when I got out of high school, I got graduation on Saturday. Sunday I was on a plane to boot camp. Went to the Navy. Spent a hitch with the Navy, Vietnam. Got out, came back to Bloomington, and I was building a chopper when I left, and luckily everything was still there, and I finished putting it back together, and then I was looking for a job, and at that time there wasn't a lot of jobs, so I did what I said I would never do again, was work on boilers. So I got a job at the IU boiler plant and spent 20 years there. And then they had a big get rid of the people. And there's 30 or 40 of us, around campus. They furloughed, paid us to go away. So I went away. But that gave me more time to come down here. So it was all good. And I'd already been coming down here by that time, and building on the boiler. So that gave me a chance to spend more time building it the second time. That didn't last long. Then we ended up with this pandemic, rebuilding it the right way. Had the time, had the resources. Took me a while to find all the parts, but without anybody here that summer, got it built, and it's working well. Any other questions?
Yeah. What is your fondest memory or time here at Lothlorien? When you think of Lothlorien, what kind of times come to your brain?
Well, one of the most memorable ones when we put up the tubing around the dome. That was a very interesting weekend. A good crowd showed up to work on it, and took us 2 days to get it up, but we got it up.
Probably felt pretty accomplished. That's a
Felt
really
good.
magnificent structure down there.
Mm-hmm. It always was meant to be covered, but some people like it as is, and that's the way it stands.
Mm-hmm.
I have a follow-up question on that. So you say that you come here, you do a bunch of work, you don't get paid for it.
No.
What is the joy?
Well, at that point in time, all my high school friends had all moved away. The only people I really knew was the people I worked with. And coming down here was a whole different set of values. And it was good. I enjoyed it. And that's 20 years ago.
If you could formulate the set of values, what are these values? You say people have different values here.
Well, that's a good thing. The number of people we have come down here is sometimes staggering. But most of them come with some skills that we can use. It's always good to talk to people, get their income, their income on what should be done. Unfortunately, some things can't be done because of price and the regulations of what we do have to work under. But it's been a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about the various stages of the shower house being built and to what we have today here?
Yeah, sure. People getting hot showers. I pointed out to them that if they don't do anything about relieving the pressure, that when they shut all the hot water off, it's going to blow. And one of the members who have passed said, well, you think you can do any better? And I said, I think I can. Nobody knew me at the time. And so I started with another gentleman that left our company and went elsewhere. But we built that sucker that summer and ran it, and it did pretty good, but I was used to building on huge boilers. Trying to build something small was a little bit difficult, but with help, Dan Gardner for one, we rigged used hot water heaters up to store the water and put a pump on it so you could push it through, and it grew. And it's had its problems. We've overfired it a few times and lifted the safeties on it, but all the people who don't know anything about it run, and then the guys who know what's going on deal with it. Now, this is the third boiler we've built, and it's going to last a long time, I think, because it's a new tank. Before, I always used used tanks, and they, you know, half their life has already been shot.
Right. Do you have any words of wisdom for future stewards of the land?
Don't keep your head down. Keep your eyes open and your ears well attuned to the people around you. A lot of stuff cannot happen down here. But a lot of stuff that come up works well down here. So you have to sort it out, pick out what you think will work, and try it. And thank goodness, you know, a few years ago, the shower house, we finally had enough money that we could build a new boiler and put it under roof and keep it nice, and it's been working real well.
All right. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
See, but
I appreciate your time.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you,
certainly.
Dan.
Okay.